By now you guys should have seen me put the full Subaru braking setup in my Rx7. If you have, you saw how much effort I'm trying to put into this engine bay to make it look a lot better than it did from the factory. Now, one of the things that's still bothering me quite a bit is this chassis harness right here. And as you can see, I pretty much released it from everywhere that it was plugged into, headlights, all that kind of stuff. But now I have to remove it from the firewall. Now what I'm kind of planning on doing is running it through the fender so you can't actually see it in the engine bay, but it's still all there and it's still all functions. That being said, getting it out has turned out to be quite a big ordeal. So I actually had to pull my dash out of the Rx7 completely, and I think I'm gonna have to pull all of the AC stuff also, because if we take a look, this harness comes out right here, goes all the way through and behind all of this AC stuff. So we're gonna have to unplug all of this. Then I'm gonna have to figure out a way to separate all of the harness that goes into the engine bay and all of the harness that goes into the car and rewire it in a way that'll achieve the look that I'm kind of going for in this car. That being said, we're probably gonna add some stuff, take some stuff away, just kind of make the entire car a little more futuristic, because I feel like a lot of 1987 technologies are in this car that I feel like could be a little bit better. So we're gonna go through a lot of that, a lot of the planning stage, and what I end up doing with the engine harness. So I already unplugged all of these connectors that go to the ignition. Most of the stuff on this side is pretty close to being ready to being taken out. I don't know what all I'm gonna have to do in here, but we'll figure that part out. I think what I'm gonna focus on is taking all of the AC stuff out right now. It looks like it should be pretty easy, a bunch of 10 millimeters and all that kind of stuff. I think that eventually I might get a little saucy, replace the blower motor, replace a couple of these things in here, and see if I can get a little bit of a better AC system in this thing. We got her out, boys. All right, boys, it is official. We got all of the forbidden spaghetti out of this thing. I'm not gonna lie, it was probably one of the most difficult parts I've had on this car to this day. And boy, oh boy, we're digging ourselves into a rabbit hole, I'm not gonna lie. So now starts the planning phase. I'm basically gonna be trying to replace all of that with a new harness that's basically just gonna make everything look a lot nicer, work a lot better, and hopefully we'll be getting rid of a good amount of stuff that we don't need. Now to start accurately planning what we have to do with the harness, I have to figure out what is actually gonna go in the car. And if we look at these headlights, that's not gonna be one of those things. This car came with glass sealed beam headlights. As you can see, there's no replaceable bulb on the back. This entire thing is a headlight bulb. Now from my experience driving this car in the past, these were not good enough. This thing was absolutely horrendous to drive at night because you couldn't really see anything. So I started weighing out my options, and I actually found out you can swap LEDs into them. So these are my new Philips sealed beam LEDs. As you can see, they are quite a bit different than the old ones. They don't have the glass exterior, so I don't really have to be worried about that cracking as much. They're LEDs, so they should be a good amount more efficient than these guys, and they should also be a good amount less yellow. Alright, that looks so much better already, look at that. So I know what you're thinking, it is a little bit premature for me to be installing these things, but there's a couple things that I want to figure out. First, I want to see how much brighter they are than the halogens, but more importantly, I want to figure out how many amps these things are going to draw, because that is what I'm going to be using to figure out what size wire I'm going to be running. Now the old sealed beams, I looked up online, these are meant to be 65 watt bulbs. That means that each one of these is going to be pulling somewhere around 5 amps. Now the beauty of switching to LEDs is that these things are going to be pulling a fraction of that. I think they should be pulling a max amperage of 1 amp with low beams and about 2 amps with high beams, but we're going to test that. Easiest way to do that, however, is to throw this back in the car and make a little makeshift harness for it. So I'm gonna go ahead and take care of that and show you guys what I find. All right, so I did a very quick and very janky job wiring these things up, but now we got headlights. And with just one little wire that needs to be switched, we got high beams, and they look super bright, honestly. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn the shop lights off so we can see how these things actually perform in the nighttime. We got low beams. That's wild, those are so bright. Okay, let's switch it to high beam, see what that looks like. Oh yeah, guys, this is ridiculous. That's like a new car, dude. That looks so good. The cutoff line is so sharp. Look at that, all the way out, super wide. Oh, this is gonna be nice. I'm gonna go ahead and close the hood, show you guys a little bit of a, almost a POV view. Oh yeah, dude, that's nice. Oh my God. These are so bright. This is ridiculous, dude. I'm actually gonna be able to see when I drive this thing at night. Look at this. That looks so good. So now I'm gonna turn the lights back on, grab my meter, and figure out what kind of amperage these things are drawing when all the lights are on. So testing the amperage on these things is gonna be pretty easy since we only have one wire going from the battery to the main power wire. We can go ahead and take our meter leads and put them in between that. So I'm gonna go ahead and set that up and show you guys the results. All right, so with my meter leads going between the battery and the connector, we can see we got about 2¼ amps while the low beams are on. Now I'll go ahead and switch that to high beams right quick. And with high beams on, we have 4½ amps. 4½ amps with both of the high beams on. That means we're about 2¼ amps per side. That's honestly really good. That's less draw than one of the factory bulbs. So that means that our wire size can change accordingly. So now that we got the entire harness out, it's time to actually figure out where we want to route it. And to do that, I think I'm gonna have to pull some stuff apart. The bumpers come off real easy on these things. I don't know if you've ever done it. That's all it is, you know? Easy. Alright, so now that we have the fender and the liner removed, we can really kind of start to figure out where our tucked harness is going to go. Now the nice part is that we have some access to some nice flat panels that we can go ahead and run our harness through. Now I got to figure out where it's going to go because, as you guys can see, the frame rail is pretty much the closest thing to touching the tire. So we're probably going to have to tuck it into the frame rail somehow, maybe punch a hole up here or something like that, route it all the way through, and then get it out the other side. But I'm gonna figure out where the easiest place to route that would be. To do that, we're gonna be using some rope. As you guys can see, now that we pulled the bumper and the fenders, we can go ahead and lay our rope down in the exact spot that we want our harness to run. You can see I've got it all secured, out of the way of pretty much any moving parts, and it's just gonna run up to about here, which is where I'm gonna be putting my fuse box. This part normally houses a bunch of relays, like the headlight relay, the dimmer relay, and all that kind of stuff, and it still will, but they will all be enclosed in a nice little fuse box. I found that there is enough space to just tuck the harness up above this little lip right there, and that will be perfectly fine sitting under the fender. And we're gonna have two bulkhead connectors plugging in right around here, one for a high amperage plug and one for a low amperage plug. Those are both gonna get joined into one harness and just go the entire length of this. So officially we got the length and the routing of the harness completely figured out. Now we kind of have to plan out what we're gonna include in this harness, what we're not gonna include in this harness, and figure out all of the logistics as far as getting relays, fuses, and all of that kind of control stuff into it. That's all gonna be in the next episode. I'm gonna go very deep into this. I'm gonna try to keep it pretty fun and pretty informational, but this is gonna get very nerdy here pretty soon. So if you're into that, make sure to keep watching the next few videos. With that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I'll see you guys next time.